You ever meet someone who acts like they were personally hired by the universe to ruin your peace? Yeah, that was Karen from my HOA. It all started on a calm Monday morning, birds chirping, sun shining, and me standing at my mailbox wondering why my bills, packages, and letters hadn't shown up for almost 2 weeks straight. I thought maybe it was just a postal delay, but then my neighbor, Mrs. Delgado, casually mentioned she'd seen Karen checking my mail a few times because she thought something looked suspicious. Suspicious? The only thing suspicious was why this woman was touching my mailbox. Now, I live in one of those communities where the HOA acts like the FBI of lawn height and fence paint colors. And Karen? She's the self-appointed sheriff of everything. The kind of person who'd report you for sneezing too loud on a Sunday. At first, I didn't want to believe it. Maybe Mrs. Delgado got confused. But the next day, I decided to test it. I put a small, bright red envelope addressed to myself inside the mailbox with a fake return address. Inside? Just a blank piece of paper and a little GPS tracker sticker. Yeah, I got a bit techie with it. The next morning, I checked the tracker location on my phone, and my jaw dropped. The signal wasn't at the post office. It wasn't even around my house. It was pinging from Karen's house. My blood boiled. Who steals their neighbor's mail, especially while being on the HOA board? I marched straight to her front door. She opened it with that fake smile, her eyes behind oversized sunglasses, and said, "Oh, hi. Can I help you?" "Yeah, Karen," I said, trying to stay calm. "Have you been checking my mail lately?" Her smile froze. "Of course not. That's a federal crime," she said, almost too quickly. I crossed my arms. "Then why does a GPS tracker from my mailbox show up inside your house?" That wiped the smile right off her face. She stuttered, I was just making sure everything was okay. There have been reports of package theft." "Karen," I said slowly, "you are the package theft." She slammed the door in my face. Typical. So, I went to the HOA to file a complaint. Guess who was running the meeting? Yep, Karen herself. And as soon as I started explaining, she cut me off saying, "Sir, this is an internal neighborhood matter. Please don't waste our time with false accusations." False accusations. I walked out of that meeting fuming. She was using her HOA position to shut me down. But fine, if that's how she wanted to play, I could play too, smarter. I filed a report with the real authorities, the USPS Postal Inspection Service. Because stealing mail? That's not just nosy behavior, it's a federal offense. The agent took it seriously, asked for all the tracker data and timestamps. They even said they'd monitor the neighborhood quietly for a few days. Meanwhile, I pretended like I'd dropped the whole thing. I smiled, waved at Karen, even trimmed my hedge like the HOA requested. I wanted her to think she'd won. But a few days later, I saw an unmarked postal vehicle parked down the street. A man in plain clothes got out, checked a few mailboxes, then walked up to Karen's house. She opened the door, and you could see the panic spread across her face when she realized who he was. Turns out, they caught her red-handed. She had several envelopes, mine and others, tucked inside a safety folder in her dining room. Her excuse? I was just holding them for safekeeping. The agent didn't buy it. She was fined, questioned, and temporarily removed from the HOA board while the investigation continued. But of course, Karen being Karen, she told everyone I was framing her out of jealousy. The neighborhood started whispering. Some people believed me, others didn't. Then came the kicker. A few weeks later, my regular mail carrier, a sweet old guy named Tom, told me he might be getting reassigned because complaints were filed against him. I asked who filed them. He looked around and whispered, "That Karen lady. She said I wasn't delivering your mail properly." Unbelievable. Even after being caught, she was still trying to make trouble. I wasn't going to let that happen. Tom was one of the kindest people I'd met. He'd been serving this neighborhood for over 20 years. So I did a little digging of my own. Turns out, the local post office was actually going up for sale, budget cuts and low staff. It was small, run down, but still operational. That's when the most ridiculous yet genius idea hit me. If Karen thought she could control the mail, what would she do if I owned the post office? So, I did something absolutely insane. I bought the post office. Yeah, you heard that right. The very same post office that handled all our neighborhood mail. It wasn't exactly cheap, but thanks to my online business, I had the funds, and honestly, it was worth every single penny just for the look on Karen's face later. I went through all the proper channels, made a legitimate purchase, and after about 6 weeks of paperwork, inspections, and a mountain of signatures, the deal was finalized. The sign out front now read, "Local branch operated by My Name Logistics." And I wasted no time putting my plan into motion. First, I made some long overdue improvements, new paint, better lighting, and fresh staff uniforms. But the most important change? A digital tracking system for every piece of mail entering or leaving the neighborhood. Nothing could go missing without being logged and time-stamped. I also made sure to update all the HOA addresses in the system, including Karen's. The next week, during mail delivery, I decided to pay a little visit to the neighborhood. I pulled up in a clean delivery van with the new post office logo on the side. People waved, curious about the changes. And then out came Karen, marching across her yard with that familiar sour look. She squinted at the logo on my van and froze. "Wait, you work for the post office now?" she snapped. I smiled. "Not quite. I own it." The color drained from her face. "You're joking." "Nope," I said, handing her a registered letter, one she'd been desperately waiting for, by the way. "From now on, all mail in this area passes through me first. Legally, of course." Her jaw dropped so hard, I thought it might hit the sidewalk. She didn't even know what to say, and for Karen, being speechless was a miracle in itself. A few days later, she tried to file a formal complaint about me to the HOA. But since she was already suspended from the board pending her federal mail theft case, her complaint went nowhere. The rest of the neighborhood, meanwhile, loved the new mail service. No delays, no lost packages, no missing letters. I even set up a little kiosk where residents could safely pick up packages and send mail without worrying about porch pirates. The place turned into a mini community hub, something positive, finally, after months of drama. But of course, Karen wasn't done. She started spreading rumors again. "He only bought the post office to spy on us," she told anyone who'd listen. "He's reading everyone's mail." Ridiculous. But she was desperate. Because her trial date with the Postal Inspection Service was coming up, and everyone in the HOA knew it. She'd broken a federal law, and there was no HOA rulebook big enough to cover that. Then, one morning, I got a call from Tom, the mail carrier. He said, "You might want to check the drop box outside Karen's place." I drove over, and there she was, standing next to the neighborhood drop box, stuffing envelopes inside it, but not through the slot. She was trying to force open the back panel. I honked the van horn, and she froze like a deer caught in headlights. "Karen!" I shouted. "What are you doing?" She stammered something about checking for misplaced letters again, but this time I had a camera on the van. Everything was recorded, the evidence, her face, the act. It was game over. When the postal inspectors saw the footage, that was the final nail in the coffin. She was charged for mail tampering again, and permanently banned from handling or accessing anyone's postal property. The HO, embarrassed beyond words, voted her out unanimously. The best part? Remember that registered letter I handed her? It was from the HOA's insurance company, a letter confirming that her mail theft had voided her homeowner's insurance. Meaning all those legal bills? On her. After that, Karen pretty much vanished from the neighborhood for a while. Rumor had it she moved in with her sister across town, away from any HOA jurisdiction. Can't blame her. Federal charges don't look good next to president of the HOA on a resume. As for me, things finally went quiet. Peaceful even. The new post office thrived. We expanded delivery routes, hired locals, and even hosted small charity drives every few months. The HOA actually started working again, focusing on things that mattered, like fixing roads and improving safety instead of policing mailbox colors. And sometimes, when I see a new resident moving in and someone mentions HOA Karen, they laugh like it's some kind of urban legend. But I remember every second of it, the missing mail, the fake smiles, the chaos. And every time I walk into my post office and see my name on the wall, I can't help but grin. Because in the end, Karen tried to steal my mail. But I ended up delivering her downfall, first class, tracked and signed for. And that, my friends, is how I turn the tables on the HOA's most nosy villain. If someone tries to control your life, sometimes the best revenge isn't anger, it's ownership. Karen wanted power over my mailbox. So I bought the whole post office. Don't forget, subscribe for more insane real-life revenge stories like this one. Because in my neighborhood, justice doesn't just get delivered, it comes with a tracking number. Package open mailbox with raised flag.